Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, family. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Mental House with me, your host, Khadija. Guys, um, whatever side of the diaspora that you may be on, first of all, I want to welcome you. And I want to, before I get started, talking about my sister, um, and I guess I can get through it today. But before I get into that, I want to offer all of my subscribers and people that follow me on Instagram. I'm sorry, Twitter, because I don't know all this stuff. We're going to be offering products uh, in the mental health on our website, and those will consist of pins, caps, uh, and various slogans in terms of us reminding ourselves to take care of our domes, to take care of our emotional and mental health, because that is the most important thing that we can do for ourselves. And these are some of the t-shirts. They're 6 ounce t-shirts, very good quality. And like this one, for instance, take control of your mental health. We have these in all sizes. And I would ask that you would support the channel um, by going to the channel and, just plopping down 25 bucks and and supporting us with the t-shirts. As we are trying to grow this channel, we're trying to grow it into a media um, outlet that deals with emotional and mental health, especially in our community, which y'all know don't nobody want to talk about. You got so many therapists out there that are not really thriving the way they should, because nobody wants to talk about their insides. They would much rather dress up on the outside and then the inside be full of dead man's bones. Okay, so I realize that. But if you, like me, realize that if you don't get your mind right, then nothing else matters. And if you respect and receive that, then this t-shirt is definitely for you. So I will hope that you will support our channel and help us grow, um, which will help me secure a little more conversation with some of the people that I'm trying to get on here, like my boxers. I think they're a little shy. Y'all know you out there. I'm talking to Tito and Bruce. And I would really like to put that program together. So whenever you guys are available, please hit me up. Hit your sister up and come on, let's do this. All right? Okay, family. I want to get back and to what I'm here to talk about. And it's very difficult still because it's so wet and raw. But my sister, as y'all know, passed away 2 weeks ago. And I'm going to suffice it to say, I'm going to tell you as much as I can tell you without breaking down. But I can tell you my sister was very codependent. I can also tell you that um, to the point where my sister was married to an individual that would bring women home to her bed, and she would make excuses for him. This is the same woman who knew her husband drank so much that he would just get into bed. He would, at nighttime, he would just get into bed with anyone. He would be naked, get into bed with children. He would be naked, walking through the house, lay down on the floor. So he had a very severe drinking problem. And of course, I didn't find this stuff out until a lot later. And I felt really responsible because I, in turn, as a mandated reporter and as a person that before they adopted the children, they really were taking parenting classes. because my sister never had any biological children. The only thing she had was cats. Never had a human being, just cats. And she married a person that didn't have any children either. So they both thought, and I think later on, 4 or 5 years into the marriage, they found out that he had a daughter. So with that being said, um, one of her friends had a stroke because her grandkids were so bad, and they were crack babies, that when she went to keep them, when her daughter got in trouble, they put the woman in the a wheelchair and damn near into the nursing home. They gave her a stroke. So I told my sister, I said, "You sure you want to keep these kids?" I said, "Because you're gonna need some extensive work with them. Because when you used to go and visit her house, one of the little girls used to get up on and you just start wiggling. You're like, what is going on with this kid?" So I definitely appointed them to the correct resources for them to experience, and for them to work with the children. One being a child psychiatrist, a child therapist. However, little on into once the adoption, because I had to represent in the court myself, and they have to have a witness and people who think this would be a good thing to do. There have been times where I second guess my decision to do that. I look back on that today, and that's why I'll never be dishonest with anybody in anything again if I can help it. Because this is how ghetto people act sometimes. We do things that are not in the best interest of the person. We do things because we're emotionally attached to a person. And a lot of us have been brought up that way. But that's not the way to do. Because if I had followed my gut, then those kids should have never been in my sister's house in the first place. My sister never had any kids. And she adopted children when she got 50 years old. And these children, mind you, were crack babies. What a hell of a combination. Once the children came into the home, I soon realized that the husband just wanted somebody to really attack his wife with. He wanted allies. He didn't want a relationship because he didn't know how. He didn't know how to have a healthy relationship. His father used to beat him and his siblings. His father used to bring other women into the house while his mother was in there and having sex with the women. So he had a lot of issues, and they both had issues that needed to be addressed. And I want to be clear that this is my adoptive sister, but she moved in with my family when I was like 5 years old, and so she's the only sister that I can remember in terms of. Um, I mean, I don't even remember when she came, but I remember she was there. So she's my sister. She was raised in the house with me, and we're sisters. But to make a long story short, you guys, this guy started to disrespect my sister so bad that I began to get so angry with her because I couldn't believe that she would allow him to walk over her once he found out that she didn't have the self-esteem that he thought. And once he realized that he could get away with things, that his nature started coming out. Again, bringing women to the home, having sex in her bed with other women, um, just a bunch of disgusting type of stuff. And I was like, why don't you get rid of this fool? Why don't you, and she could use the excuse now that, well, she has these kids. I'm like, these kids, oh, mind you, let me say this. The husband had found a way to ease me out of any kind of help that I was giving to them or any resources that I was suggesting. He began to disrespect them all, and she began to help him do that. Not, and I don't mean that literally, but the fact that she didn't stand up means that she co-signed it. So a lot of women they don't make the decision themselves, and they're glad that they can blame it on their man or their significant other or their husband, even when they know it's wrong. So I would fall out with her from time to time about that because I knew she was not doing what was in the best interest of these children. But her husband, he would, it would be a friction. So we're gonna fast forward this story till my sister ended up, like I told you guys, got a job, got him jobs. She was a manager, um, and ultimately, or she was a supervisor at some place, and ultimately she brought him in there, and he became a manager because he's a hard-working guy. He may drink a lot, but he's a very hard worker. So what ended up happening in this particular situation is they would have coworkers come to their home. They would barbecue all the time for coworkers and do things of that nature. My sister loved to bring people over. She's a Libra, and she would love to bring the people over and barbecue and have a good time. The only thing is, I couldn't go over there a lot because the people in the environments that my sister kept was not very comfortable for me. There are people that like to drink a lot and that type of stuff. And when they drink, y'all already know what goes on. I'm just not with all that craziness. So I love my sister to death, but I didn't associate with her friends. And sometimes when she would have these barbecues, I would just go over there when it was just going to be me, her, and the kids or whatever, because, a few friends I see, maybe, but not when she would have her big barbecues and get together because, you just didn't know what would happen. And I know several people like that in the hood, and that's kind of like what stopped me from going around them, because it'd be gunplay or whatever, just everyday thing in the ghetto. So to make a long story short, my sister and my brother-in-law, they raised these children who were pretty much children of the corn. And by the time they got to be adolescent, they were fighting their parents. And this all came from the father giving mixed messages. If you ever tried to correct the young man, the father would jump in. He would never let anybody correct him. It was all so sick. Um, Protective services were called a couple times, but obviously nothing happened. And I know because I was one of the people that called, okay, because there were things that were happening that I just couldn't take. However, you know, they got past it. They got past it. Now, my brother in law is telling my sister that he's tired of her and these kids. And really, what it was is he started wanting to leave. He started getting into a midlife crisis, and he was like, "What am I doing with these kids, and what am I doing with her? These kids don't belong to me." And so my sister tried to hold on to him again because of the kids, just like she did 10 years earlier. And this time it didn't work. He left. And he left her there with those children from the corn who at this time were beating on her, hitting her, punching her in the eyes. A lot of these things she would keep from me. It was just a horrible situation, an absolute horrible situation. Her husband started going she was an ex-husband, yes, started going with the woman that worked right alongside with her. So they're all in this real small space every single day. It was uh, a situation that is so stressful that it was a match made in hell. And I kept begging my sister. I was like, "Why don't you just leave? Why don't you find something else to do? Why don't you retire early? Because this is too stressful." And if he's that bold, now he's taking his new girlfriend that works side by side with my sister to work in the car, and while my sister walks, um, they got divorced. And this kind of so then they got divorced, okay, but this craziness was still going on. So she's getting up going to work today in this cesspool full of madness. And then coming home with disrespectful kids that are now going with their biological mother who had TPR, who had her rights terminated. Now she's being an influence in my sister's home. That's why. So you got a husband that's left you and is going with your coworker. Now your children are going back to their biological mother, and whatever they tell her to do, they'll do. If she tells them to steal from you and bring it to her, they'll do it. So my thinking is like, why don't you get rid of her, get rid of these kids, sell your house, sell the home, get out, go, because stress will bust the iron pipe, sis. And this is too stressful. I would be getting stressed just hearing about it. I would get totally discombobulated just hearing about what she was going through, and then she would just escalate it by drinking, because she was so hurt by what had happened to her. And and I said, "You're gonna drop dead. If you keep this up, you're gonna drop dead." These were my exact words to my sister. It got worse, you guys. It got worse and worse and worse with the same destructive behavior. These children. Now, I mean, so then the children decided to take my sister to court with their biological mother because, mind you, the biological mother just wanted a check. Okay, you got to remember this. Even though she'd been TPR'd, she'd been moving from state to state to state, she really wanted the check, so she figured she'd get her kids back with the help of my sorry ass brother in law. So he jumped on their side. So they became a tag team against my sister. So, of course, at that time, I knew it had gone too far. So I wrote a letter to the judge, letting the judge know what my professional opinion was about this situation, letting the judge know, um, what the needs and of the children were, how I thought that, the husband was thwarting this progress, and also how that they needed to get into some kind of therapy immediately, um, and because the father was not a good influence, because not only were they acting out because of the divorce, they are just acting out because this is all they know how to do. I couldn't stress that enough. She won the case. The judge couldn't believe that my sister had her receipts together and everything. And the judge couldn't believe that now her husband is sitting on the side of the biological mother who has a rap sheet as long as Texas of just neglect, abuse, drug use, death, all these felonies, and then her ex-husband is sitting alongside. Well, of course, my sister was so depressed. She was devastated by all this activity, but she wouldn't leave. She kept saying, "I'm gonna keep my house, and they're not gonna do this to me in my house. And I'm not gonna." And I'm saying, "Baby, this house is gonna kill you. This house is gonna kill you." I remember being in that situation. I remember being in a situation where my significant other left me in a situation where, now I have a mortgage. It was just real diabolical. And they didn't think twice. In fact, they wanted to leave me in a desperate situation. And they got a kick out of leaving me. And each time that the person left me, they left me in a situation that was just horrible. But I was silly enough to be hoovered back in, and I saw the same characteristics in my sister. However, there was no happy ending to her situation. So now, once this guy is just running amok in their lives with these children, and the judge threw the court case out of court. Now, what was happening was she began to concentrate on her house, and I was like, "Why don't you sell it? Get you an apartment. It's just one of you and your cats. You that's how you started. Leave all this stuff behind." And I know after being in a relationship for 30 years, that's not easy. It's not. And it's difficult when you're in a relationship for 17 years or 20 years, you know, because you have an investment in these people and in this relationship, but sometimes you have to let it all go. I know, I've been there. Never thought I could hurt so bad, but I'm still here and I got through it. So when I told my sister that she was going to drop dead, I knew it could happen, And I know when we began to talk about we should get our wills together, and she kept saying, I don't want my ex-husbands, because now they've been divorced like 4 years or so. And she's like, I don't want my ex-husband and his people to have anything to do with me, and hope that if anything happens to me, and I'm really concerned about that. And I'm like, well, let's do a will. You got to do it. If you don't want something to happen, let's make it plain. Put it in writing, and let's do that. I'm going to end this story by saying, because I'm getting very angry and I'm starting to think about things that just don't need to be in this video. Um, my sister, the last thing I can tell you guys is that she got a check to get the roof fixed, and the check, she had to have her ex-husband signature on it because his name was also on the house that they bought together, even though she was continuing to pay for it. Filed Chapter 7. It was too much stress. She didn't need it. She didn't need it. So as she was making herself go through all this, stressed out about it, drinking more, he picks her up. He takes her to the bank, and I'm in my spirit, I already relived the whole thing that he probably was arguing with her in the car, because that's all they seem to do anyway. As soon as she got to the bank, he claims he dropped her off, and she went around the back. Went around to the bank. Somebody said when she pulled the door open, she dropped dead instantly on the sidewalk. She was dead. And they came and put a blanket over her. And they had to call 911 and paramedics, because there was nothing the police could do. Once they came, they knew she was dead. And so she sat out on the sidewalk for hours. And do y'all know, they had a nerve to do exactly what my sister didn't want to have happen. The husband took over. The husband's relative took over. They put her on the obituary with her wedding dress on, as if she just got married. And these people have been divorced almost 5 years. They had nothing in the inside of the um, obituary, except the wedding pictures and pictures of the kids, and just a bunch of stupid, insane things that she know, I know, and I want the world to know that she did not want. But she didn't take care of her business fast enough, family. And so now the man that beat her, the man that brought women, not beat her, but brought women to her house, because she wasn't no punk, and they would fight. They'd be up in there fighting. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying it is what it is. So, but I can't put that lie on them. But this man had the nerve to act as if they were not even divorced. It is so insane. When you look at the back of the obituary, it says stuff like, "Don't cry, husband, and your wife." And it was totally delusional. The people that wrote it and did that were totally disrespectful to her, because none of that stuff she felt. She told me for sure she didn't want them nowhere near her body if something ever happened to her. And just like she didn't want, because those kids are the next in line, they had to make decisions about her when they the one that helped kill her. How's that irony for your ass? The same ones that helped her put her in the grave, the kids, now have the house go to them. The house that she worked so hard for. The husband, of course, he has another girlfriend by now, so that's all he's been doing was flaunting them back and forth. And I think one of my um, other relatives told him, "I hope you don't bring no woman into her house." I mean, I hope you wouldn't be that disrespectful. Um, he's claimed he wouldn't. Now let me tell y'all something. I was very angry for a long time because I know that this was nothing but stress that killed my sister. Stress from a no good man that not only did they break up, but it was so unhealthy because nobody in their right mind wants to torture somebody when you break up with them. Nobody wants to go with the person right next door. You could go with everybody in the whole world, but you want to go with a person that's right next, working in the same facility, right next to you, not even a 10 feet space between the two of y'all. And y'all doing all this stuff to her. You doing all this stuff to her, let alone a coworker. But this is what you do to somebody that you've been married to for 30 years. I contend you never really loved her at all. You don't treat nobody like that. And then they got the nerve to put on that at the end of the day, he was the love of her life. He was the worst thing that ever happened to her. They were two dysfunctional vessels traveling on the road, inevitably doomed for a crash. That's what I see this as. It, it is something that really disturbed me. It's going to disturb me for a while. So every time I go into those feelings, I try to come out with something positive. Um, but I know that stress will bust an iron pipe, y'all. And please don't let anybody or anyone stress you out to the point where you keep saying, I can handle it. I can handle it. Because you may say that with your mouth, but every part of your organ is rejecting it. It doesn't want it. And you shouldn't force that kind of stuff on yourself. Rest in peace, my sister. I love you so much. And you're gone too soon. But if you had to keep living like that, maybe it's best. God knows best. Okay, I'm gonna go. I got it out. If you like what you hear, please like, subscribe, and share. And I'm going to see y'all a little later, right here in the mental house.